Welcome to the Prison Pod, a podcast for all people experiencing incarceration. The mission of this podcast is to save lives, restore hope, reduce suffering, and recidivism. Many show ideas come directly from the listeners, so please write the host. Prison Pod, Post Office Box 294, Orono, Maine, 04473. Here is your host, Ms. Valerie.
Welcome to the Prison Pod. Joining us today is Sabrina Rose. Sabrina is a professional artist, jeweler, and published author who has built a life of purpose from a foundation of trauma. She is a graduate in psychology with a background in social work. Her professional success is only half of the story. Sabrina's perspective is forged by the cycle of the foster care system and the heavy reality of generational incarceration. Welcome to today's show, Sabrina.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I guess we should probably start right off. I want to talk about your recovery a little bit first, if we can do that. How long
Yeah.
have you been in recovery now?
It has been 20 months, almost 2 years. So July 7th, that'll be my 2-year mark.
That's incredible. Congratulations on that. I want
Thanks
to
so
cover
much.
that first because a lot of the podcast will be talking about how addictions and incarceration has affected your life, along with the foster care system. And you've already had a busy day today, am I correct?
Yeah, I've been pretty busy with this charity organization I've been running. It's called Sabrina's Suitcases. So I met with some individuals here in my city to see how can we make it even bigger. There's 2,700 kids in foster care in the state of Maine right now, and I plan to get a suitcase into the hands of every single one of them so that they don't have to move with trash bags anymore.
I really love the idea of that because you made a very important statement somewhere in your social media that children aren't trash and they should not be carrying around their belongings in a trash bag. And
That's
I
right.
really love the idea. If people want to find out more about Sabrina's Suitcases, how can they do that?
A few different ways. You can find me on all social medias under Sabrina Illustrated, and I do have a Facebook page specifically for the charity called Sabrina's Suitcases. Or you can always email me, and that's at sabrinaillustrated@gmail.com.
Okay, great.
I try to get
Okay,
to all of these, or go to my website, Sabrina Illustrated. Just Google Sabrina Illustrated, you'll find me.
you'll find her. She's everywhere. Okay, so today is March 24th, 2026, and this is an important date for you. Would you like to talk about what today is?
Definitely. Today is my mother's 50th birthday. I lost her when I was 19 years. Well, I lost her when I was 5 years old, when I was put into foster care, but she passed away when I was 19 and she was only 37. It's not a day I've really struggled with in the past because I never let myself think about my mother, but more and more lately I wrote a book about her. So she's on my mind 24/7. So this is the first, big anniversary that's kind of hitting me, I guess.
Can you talk a little bit about the title of your book and how you went about writing it?
Yeah. So I went about writing it. The book is called Finding Michelle Canu. That's my mother's name, Michelle. It's actually pronounced Canu, I've been told. So I had actually written a first book, and that was titled 30, Dirty, and Dying, where I tried to explain my life in addiction and how I became an addict. And I was busy promoting this book, and I had an interview with a journalist who asked me, "Are you an addict because your biological mother was an addict?" Somehow, in all the hospitalizations, all the detoxes, all the counseling sessions, they never asked me that question. Never asked me about my mother. Never asked if she had bipolar disorder, none of it. And so when that journalist asked me that question, it really hit me and threw me for a loop. And I got spinning down this rabbit hole of, why have I never asked this? Why have I never cared about my mother? And I started to realize that it's because the entire world ingrained in me to hate my mother and to never go look for her, never think of her as a human being. Think of her as just an addict that you need to stay away from. But that journalist question, it really stuck with me. And I opened up my laptop and I just started doing a little bit of digging into who my mother was. And right off the bat, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. A very clear pattern in my family of women growing up in foster care, having children at a young age. I'll say having children at a young age, having those kids taken away by DHS, and then dying from addiction. And I also saw, I guess I won't get into too much yet. I don't want to give away everything in the book, but I uncovered a lot of things that I should have been told, you know?
So, can you tell me just a little bit about what you're aware of about your mom as you were growing up? You were adopted, is that correct?
Yeah, I was put in foster care at 5 years old, and I stayed with the same family for 2 years before they formally adopted me at age 7. So I was adopted, and I wasn't given any information about her. My foster parents told me to forget her. They would not let me have any pictures of her, nothing even close to the sort. My mother had visited me one time while I was in foster care. She colored a picture and gave it to me, and my foster parents ripped it up, threw it away, and said, "Forget her. She's nothing but an addict. She doesn't love you. She loves drugs more than you." And I ate those words up because I had already experienced abandonment once. I didn't want to experience it again. I would do anything it took to make these foster parents love me, even if it meant going against what I knew best.
And as a child, we believe what adults tell us.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are supposed to be guiding us. And as you know, when you grow up in dysfunctional household, there's very little truth told.
I am definitely learning that. I am blown away by the amount of lies and deceivement that were in this adopted family of mine. It's quite unbelievable.
I had a different situation, but similar to yours. My mother remarried, and her husband adopted me, and I wasn't allowed to have anything to do with my biological father and siblings, which I have 6 siblings.
Wow.
So that was really, I mean, I was only aware of 1 or 2 of them growing up, but as an adult, I found out who they all were, and I've had contact with them.
Thank God.
Also have siblings?
Yes, I did. I had a younger brother who was put into foster care as well, but didn't get to come with me, and a younger sister who left the state with her biological father. All of us had different dads. My father, unfortunately, wasn't on my birth certificate. That created issues. My younger brother, he was in foster care briefly until his own biological father finally got him back. We were supposed to have visits, and I only learned that just a few months ago because I went and found my file, my DHS file, and that's where I uncovered a lot of lies directly from DHS, may I add.
And you weren't allowed to take any of that information, is that true?
Yeah, I wasn't even supposed to have the file or see it at all, but I think they just felt bad for me because this is right when I was in the middle of writing my book. I'm trying to find out the truth. I had called every courthouse. Everybody told me that I couldn't have the file. It was sealed. Couldn't have it, couldn't have it. It was sealed for my own protection, is what they told me. I drove 3 hours down to the courthouse and I showed up a half hour before they closed. And I said, "I need to see this file right now because I have reason to believe that DHS has lied about my race and my heritage," and they gave it up, and they let me have it for 30 minutes. I couldn't take pictures, but I did anyway because I
You
had
know,
to. I
I'm
had
really
to.
surprised with the Freedom of Information Act that more of that isn't available. I myself
It's
wanted to get a
absolutely
copy of
ridiculous.
my original birth certificate because I don't have one.
It's got mine finally, but it's so ridiculous how they make it damn near impossible to get these files, and I don't understand why. I feel like as soon as an adopted child turns 18, or not adopted, foster child turns 18, they get that file, no questions asked. I have read that there's supposed to be a folder or a binder given to the child by the adopted parent when they turn 18. What's crazy is I do remember my foster parents giving me this binder. I was maybe 13 years old, and it was very manipulative, given to me too young, saying, "See all of the evidence as to why your mother was such a junkie and shouldn't have you," and my father. It wasn't just my mother, both parents. So that when I had that binder, I didn't care to read it. I don't
You know,
care at 13, but
I
I should have gotten it at 18.
and you would have been
Didn't.
better off, better prepared to handle something like that, or find people that were the support system to you during that.
Definitely, but that's not the way it worked out.
Now, let's go on to the next topic. Oh my word. Was your father in the picture when you were little?
Yes, he was. He was a great dad. I have a lot of memories of him. My parents were never, like, dating or anything, so they did co-parent quite well from what I remember. I'd go see him often and, it was all fair. So I remembered him very well. That's who I was with when I was taken by DHS. I was in my dad's arms.
And your dad also struggled with addiction issues, is that correct?
Very much so. He was drinking alcohol from what I've heard by the time, and it was in the DHS file. He was addicted by the time he was like 10 years old and dealing pills at school. His mother would have him sell her Oxycontin at school. So, of course, then he's in detention centers by the time he's, I don't know, 12, 13.
And was you able to have an adult relationship with either one of them?
My mother, I reached out to her when I turned 18 on Facebook. Thank God for Facebook. So I was able to reach out to her, but, I was just such a messed up kid. I didn't know how to handle this. So I ended up blocking her on Facebook and she died 5 months later. So I never got to see her and I regret all of it so much. And it's a lot of, guilt.
The thing is, though, that you have to keep in mind, Sabrina, is you only had so much to work with at that time. And what your truth was what other people told you.
Yeah,
That
that's
was
right.
your truth. You didn't know any different until you started searching yourself. Because I
Yeah.
went through the same thing. I was in my 50s before I met my siblings. And I felt so guilty about that because I was the oldest one. And I felt it was up to me to reach out to them and to build that relationship. And I had no idea how to do that because I was taught that there was someone to fear. The family was someone to fear. He was bad. He was in prison. He was
Yeah.
involved with alcohol and drugs, and there was no good that was going to come from having anything to do with him. And because of that, I had two conversations on the telephone with him, and he passed away. So it was one of those situations that I never had the opportunity to build anything anyways, which probably wouldn't have been a relationship anyways, because his whole thing was is I was looking for a brother that I believed had been given up for adoption. And his thing was, well, for crying out loud, you found five of them. What do you need to know more for? And I said, I want to know if he's alive.
Want to
And
know
I,
everything.
yeah.
Everything.
But he said, yes, he is alive. He was given up for adoption. And that's all the information you're going to get. And years, I'm talking 25 years, went by. And just a few years ago, he contacted us. He found me through our DNA.
I have chills. That is awesome. That is so cool.
But there was something in my heart that I believed he was alive. We had been told he died at birth.
You gotta
So,
trust that intuition, I've
yeah,
noticed, and you
yeah.
have to
And
trust your gut.
you do. And you have to use some common sense. I mean, when you look at the reality of situations, like so many people become parents before they were ever prepared to be, if they should have
Oh,
ever had children to start out with. I mean, I became a mom at 17. There was no way I was prepared for it.
yeah.
And you do the best you can and you make your way through it. But if you don't have a support system, and then especially if you have multiple children and you're struggling and people are just saying, oh, well, it's the drugs or it's the drinking. No, let's not
Always
address
say
that.
that.
Let's address
Yeah,
that it's a family. And how do we support this family where they're at?
couldn't agree more, and I really struggle with, like, why doesn't DHS see that? Why do they see young, struggling mothers and just tear away their kids and say, "Good luck"? I
I think it
don't understand it.
Unfortunately, I think it's the overall government
Yeah.
more than DHS. It's the people that are above them. These are the rules and regulations and the guidelines. And they treat everyone in a cookie cutter type situation. And people aren't that way. We're all separate individuals, every single one of us. And that
Right.
comes down to the families. I don't agree with if the children are in extreme danger, if something they know is going to happen to that child, but if they were to use the support that they give to foster parents to
Right.
the parents, if you went in there and said, okay, so for the next 2 years, we're going to give you this amount of money, we're going to pay for their clothing, we're going to give you rides to their appointments.
Exactly.
and give that kind of support to the parents that are raising the children rather than take them out and pay some stranger to raise them.
It's because as soon as they hear the word addict, they throw that gavel. You're guilty. You're over.
Yeah,
You're done.
yeah,
Instead of trying to get them into a rehab, or I know that you can't force someone to do that, but at the very least, they need to be understanding that addiction is a secondary problem. Somebody doesn't just wake
exactly.
up an addict. It's yes, it's a choice at first, but we make that choice because we're self-medicating and because we're dying on the inside.
Yeah, and I think you made a very important point there that it's a choice when you first pick up a drug. It's not a choice to become addicted to it.
Right.
And, and that's the hardest thing is, and then when do you make that choice that life is worth more? And where do you find that hope to get out
Yeah.
of that hole?
I was watching this really awesome documentary when I was trying to find out more about my mother. She took off to Las Vegas after she lost me. She stayed out there for like 10 years. Nobody really knew where she was, what she was doing. So, to understand it better, I watched this documentary on heroin addicts in Las Vegas in the early 2000s. And at the end of it, this kid says he's crying. He's young. He's a heroin addict. He's just crying. And he says, I think I got it bad out here, but the people who really got it bad are the ones who had their kids taken away by DHS. They've got nothing left to live for, zero hope. And that's exactly what's happening. Once these parents lose all parental rights and they don't get any more visitation. I was rereading these letters from my father this morning that he sent me while he was in prison. And, he talked about that, how there was nothing left to live for. My mother said that too. There was nothing. No hope, and the guilt. My father wrote a lot about the guilt that he felt. Everything was his fault, even though it wasn't at all.
Well, that's the thing is when you look back into history, this is where people need to understand generational trauma, you know,
Yes.
and the point that a mother is carrying that with her while she's pregnant.
Yeah.
So all that, any trauma, any sadness, depression, all of those things are in that child before they're
Yeah.
even born.
It's not
So
just a theory. Like
no, it's
this
genetics.
is this is genetics. And my book is a testament to that. It's not just me and my mother, it's also my grandmother and my great grandmother and aunts, uncles, cousins, all of us. All of us.
And it comes down to so many different things, like the neighborhood you lived in, the
Mm,
education that you get, you know, and that's again passed on generational to generational. I'm going to
yeah.
take a quick break here so we can hear from our sponsors and we'll be right back.
Choreo helps inmates connect with their loved ones by allowing an inmate to receive and leave messages at any time using standard prison phones. Without Choreo, family and friends wait for a call and hope they can answer. With Choreo, they can call or text at any time. Next time the inmate calls their Choreo number, they will hear your voice and text messages. For more information, have your friends or family visit Choreo's website at https://choreospc.org. The Pitzer Family Education Foundation, PFEF, is asking incarcerated individuals to become part of a life-changing mission by donating once a month, just the cost of a candy bar, to help send a child of an incarcerated parent to college or trade school. According to the report, PFEF has partnered with 14 state departments of corrections, and those partnerships allow offenders to donate to the foundation. The report also states that 2 of those state systems have placed PFEF information on offender commissary lists and tablet systems so inmates can donate and access scholarship information for their children at any time without pressure. The procedure is simple. Incarcerated individuals who are housed in correctional systems can make donations to PFEF through the methods approved by their facility or Department of Corrections. In some institutions, this may be done through the commissary list or tablet system, where PFEF donation information has been made available.
So we're back with Sabrina Rose, and we're talking about all the things that she's involved in right now. And I'm going to switch over to something totally different. Let's switch
Yeah.
over to your art.
Okay, I don't talk about that very much.
You're an artist and you do some beautiful things, and also a lot of your stuff has messages in it. So can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I've always been into art. It was always dark art that I was into. When I was in addiction, I was always drawing like demons and scary stuff. And then I got sober and I noticed like my interests started to shift. I didn't care about drawing the dark stuff so much. And I started collecting sea glass on the ocean because I live on a boat in the summertime, Portland. Started collecting sea glass. And I just like thought a lot about how it represents transformation and being able to go through hard times and come out beautiful. So I started making jewelry out of it and it kind of popped off. Did that for about a year, and I still do some of it. And I also do jewelry with I call it jewelry with purpose, serenity prayer bracelets. I've got a lot of bangles that have, little inscriptions like warrior or one day at a time, just simple little messages that keep you going through the day because that's what I need to stay sober is like just little reminders because you've got to keep that focus. I mean, you got to commit to sobriety every single day and you can't forget because it's very easy to slip up.
I know so many people that have done tattoos. I actually have a friend who had a monkey put on his back to remind him,
Oh yeah. I got
monkey
one
on your
here.
back.
I don't know if I could show it. Probably not, but it's a snake with a liquor bottle and the snake is like dripping venom onto a cup. I relapsed about 3 months after I got that tattoo, but it's still a
Well,
reminder. I came back. I always
yeah,
come back.
and that's the thing too is, sadly relapse is part of recovery.
It
And,
is.
you have to be able to support people when they go through that. They
Yeah.
feel bad enough and beating themselves up as it is. They don't need you saying, "Knew you couldn't do it."
That's
It's
right.
like,
No, you're totally right. I never wanted to say that relapse was a part of recovery when I first got sober. I'd get like very angry to hear that. But since then I've relapsed probably 5 or 6 times. So yeah, it's a part of recovery.
when you cleaned up this time, did you go through a treatment program or anything?
Oh, well, I did go to a detox center. I was there for 14 days. They told me that I very well could be paralyzed. I could not walk for like I think 3 days, 3 or 4 days, I couldn't walk because there was no nutrient deficiencies. They were giving me a lot of shots for that, and then they moved me over to the psych unit because detox isn't just physical, I'll say that. It's mental too,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to be someplace safe. So while I was there, I called every rehab I could find, and they all said I was too high risk. So I got rejected from every rehab. And when that final rehab rejected me, I broke down and said, screw it. I'm going back to drinking because obviously that's what everybody wants me to do. But then I left the hospital. I checked out. I checked out against medical advice. All the doctors told me I would be dead in a week. They said I was going to relapse. They had zero faith in me. They screamed at me. They were nasty to me. And I took that and I used that as motivation to say, you know what? I'm going to prove all you guys wrong. I had one doctor believe in me, one. And that, I don't know, that helped. There always seems to be one, angel amongst
Yeah.
the
So did you
darkness.
have some sort of support system? Did you do meetings? How did you
Totally white knuckled it. Totally no meetings. I wasn't working or doing anything by that time because I had just dedicated my life to drugs and drinking. But I did have a boyfriend. We were on rocky, it wasn't going well because of my drinking. But he said that he would quit drinking with me too. So I decided to take him up on the offer and just, we had each other to quit. He wasn't at the point I was, but he liked to drink and he put it down. So I had that support. But, I really leaned on God. I leaned on God a lot and self-reflecting and writing my first book. I decided to sit down. The day I got out of that hospital, I started writing 30, Dirty, and Dying. And it opened my eyes to so much trauma I had forgotten about. It helped me see the pattern of the relapses. It was a lot of introspection and just reflecting on my life and being honest about my mistakes. I told a lot of things in that book that I had never told another human being. It was kind of like skipping to step 5 in AA. it's like making amends. It was kind of my message out to the world of, here's what I've done wrong.
Well, writing can be so therapeutic
It
and
really is.
reflective because you can write something and when you're writing it, you think it doesn't mean anything. And then you
Yeah.
go back and read it 6 months later and you say, oh my word, I can't believe it. It was right
Yeah.
on the money. Now
And
I understand.
And exactly that, and that's why I keep journals, and I've kept journals since I was in the 2nd grade. I only have the ones that I like from, I don't know, age 20 to current, but when I was writing my first book, I took all those journals that I kept when I was in active addiction, and I pored over them, trying to figure out how the hell I got this bad, and I figured it out, I
Well,
would say.
I think probably a huge piece of your puzzle was not knowing who the hell you were.
Yeah.
Excuse
No
me.
idea. I had no idea who I was. I was just always wearing masks, I would say, and then once those masks started to get really uncomfortable, that's when my drinking and my drug use got the worst, because those became my new mask.
And by going through that experience yourself, I'm sure that you gained a better understanding of what your parents went through, their experiences. And I understand how you get there. We don't realize it when it's happening at all. I mean, it's an escapism usually. And it's like, oh, wow, I don't feel that right now. But then the next day, it's right there again, biting you in the butt.
Yeah, I think of everything about my parents so differently. Even my dad, my father, John, he was in prison for 10 years. He did 10 years in Maine State Prison. And I was, I believe, 21 when he got out. And when, I didn't see him when I was a kid, but we wrote letters. As soon as my mother died, when I was 19, I started writing letters to John because I was like, I lost one parent. I gotta get some answers here. So
Yeah.
I wrote him we exchanged letters back and forth. And then when he got out, I rushed down to meet him. And when I walked in the door, the first thing he said to me was, "You want to smoke a joint?" So yeah, of course I do. And then it was, "Do you want to crush a bottle of vodka with me?" Yeah, I want to do that. By the end of his life, that was all we did together was drink and do drugs. I still was shocked when I heard that he had died. I had a very bad feeling about him. He tried to go to rehab. He lasted 3 days. I went and picked him up. I moved him in with me. He destroyed both of our lives, upended both of our lives. We were homeless. We lived in a hotel for a while, and then I just got so fed up with him, I cut him off. So I cut off both my parents, and they both died right after I did that. It was really awful because I didn't mean it. I just didn't know how to handle his addiction. I didn't know what to think about it. My own addiction was just taken off. I just saw him as fun. And then, oh my God, we're burying him. I didn't even
Yeah.
want to admit that it was a drug overdose. I tried to tell everybody it had to have been a suicide, but no. He was out of prison for 2 years
Yeah, what
and
a
he died.
shame. Did you ever have any prison experience yourself?
Shockingly, no, but
Thankfully.
I did have to stay, and I've been in trouble with the law. I have a couple theft charges because I was stealing liquor. My first one was right after my mother died. I stole a bottle of booze, and I got caught. He kind of cut me a break, but I did it a few more times. And then there was a time I walked out of a bar and a cop asked me what was in the glass. It was alcohol, and I threw it in his face. I'm arrested, spending the night in jail, and I have no idea why. So I luckily didn't get any worse than that. After that night in jail, I stopped the theft acts completely, and I knew I didn't want to wind up in prison because I saw, I saw what it was like through my dad's eyes.
Did your mother have any incarceration in her
Oh,
history?
so
Yeah.
when she lost me, she took off to avoid a criminal charge. It was a burglary charge, but she was so terrified of having to go to jail, she ran off. When she finally came back 10 years later, they arrested her on the spot, basically. And they dropped the burglary charge, but they made her serve a year just for running. So she
Yeah.
had to do a year. But in her case, it was in some ways a blessing because it helped her get sober.
Well, that's what I was wondering, because that sometimes is a miracle when they get arrested, as much as you hate to see that happen.
Yeah, and she got medical treatment because she was trying to live with untreated hepatitis C. And that is ultimately what ended her life. But she was trying to live with that untreated. It spread to cirrhosis, congestive heart failure, lung cancer. Everything. Her body just totally gave out at 37. She was 32 when she had her first heart attack.
Wow.
That's my age. I'm
Holy
31.
cow. We've gone
Yeah.
through some conversations here.
Yeah, it's
So
a
let's see,
lot.
where are we gonna go next?
But
So
well,
what gets you up every morning?
what gets me up the first thing I do in the morning, honest to God, is grab my laptop and check my emails because I get tons and tons of emails of people who are suffering in the foster care system one way or another. I have people who are 80, 50, 60 years old emailing me saying, "How did you do it? How did you find out the truth?" People begging me to help them. Please listen to and I try to listen to everybody, but you wouldn't believe, I mean, you would believe. There's so many people.
You know, the one thing, and I'm going to say this now since there'll be so many people that will listen to this. From going through this myself, the first thing I decided to do when I wanted to find out where everybody was do a DNA test. A lot of people say, oh, I don't want people having my DNA and knowing all this about me. But there's other things too about like your health you can get on your DNA. Honestly, expect another phone call at some point that we have other siblings out there because our father, he was out there,
He was good at
and,
making babies.
I have two siblings that are younger than my two oldest kids. So he continued having children.
Wow.
And yeah, so,
I tried the DNA test. It came back inconclusive twice.
huh.
But that was like a few years ago. That was before I really was taking it serious, so I didn't pursue it. I want to try again, but somebody
I'm
told me to wait
curious, were
until
you
the kits
sober
go
at
on
the
sale.
time?
No, no.
So sometimes if somebody has alcohol or drugs in the system, it
I was wondering
skews the
that.
test. So
Yeah.
maybe that's, yeah, because it
I'm
would
gonna
be
wait to
interesting.
I figured that was probably it. Somebody told me like wait till the kits go on sale. I don't know. I'm gonna do it, but I still have questions, of course. I haven't
Yeah.
figured out everything.
So are you still writing? Are you going to write another book?
I'm definitely gonna write another book. I love to write. I can't believe that I've written 2 books. I always wanted to. I always have people like try to beat me down on the idea or, I was too messed up to do it. So I'm gonna write until the day I die.
That's great. Keep writing.
Yeah,
Yeah, because there's so much healing that can be done through that.
there
You know,
really is.
I'm at the point where I really want to start writing my book. I have a story that I want to tell about my biological grandfather.
Oh
So,
yeah?
yeah, but it's
Do
very
it. Do it. Do
hard
it.
getting information because he died in 1938.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and he was murdered. So and it was one of those hush hush stories. So when I met the biological family, everyone's, oh, we can't talk about it. And now everyone's passed away. So,
That's the that's the really, like, struggle that I have finding out everything. Anyone who would know anything, they're already dead. So that
now,
is the other great thing about writing the books. Future generations are going to see these books.
yes. Now, were either set of grandparents alive?
Yeah, actually, so grandfather on both sides. Both grandmothers have passed, but grandfathers are alive. I
And
and
are they
I've met one of them.
okay.
Crow, my maternal grandfather. I haven't met him in person, but we've talked a lot. We've emailed, sent letters. He's a poet, a writer.
That's how I
He's
found out about
talented.
you, you
Oh,
know?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I, met Crow and Diana, it's been 25 years probably since, when you
Right
first
around when
got
I went in
cleaned
foster
up
care.
when you first cleaned up, he was talking about you, and I said, "Oh, I'm gonna find her," and then I started following your story, so it's really been
That's
wonderful
cool.
seeing you and your progression, and, I have to say that you posted some videos that ripped my heart out, man. When you were in that courthouse and crying, I swear I was right there with you.
I
it ripped my heart out.
I almost didn't post it. I sat on those videos for like a month. I was like, this is too I couldn't even
It was
watch it myself. I couldn't even
raw.
watch it myself. So when I did watch it, I was like, this is real. This is what the pain of being ripped away from your family actually looks like. That was not faking.
Well,
That was primal pain.
Yeah. And I think that it was something that other people could relate to that
Yeah,
experience it and don't understand it because a lot of
definitely.
times our pain turns to anger.
Yeah,
And that's
for
where
sure.
it's a real slippery slope when we come to drug and alcohol because, what better escape, right?
That was always my thing. I still struggle with anger. It's a PTSD symptom as far as I can tell. And I'm a lot better about managing it now, but back then, I think especially as women, when we get angry, we self-inflict it. We don't want to hurt more people around us. We just hurt ourselves.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's lots of men like that too, but I just hear it a lot from women.
Well, it's okay for men to get angry, but when women do it, they call the B word.
Right. Well, like in the case of my parents, when I was taken into foster care, my mother just fled. She ran away. That's probably her fight or flight response. That's mine. I
Yeah.
run every time I get scared. I mean, I try not to now. And my father went out and assaulted somebody, and that's how we got the 10-year prison charge.
And that was probably built up anger over who
Right.
knows what,
He
you
did it
know?
2 days after I was taken by DHS.
Yeah. So that anger and the frustration, and that's another thing that happens with people that are in prison. A lot of times people will the state will try to sever the parental rights and they don't come and get them to take them to their court hearings.
I
They don't
know.
show up, they lose their rights to their children and they never even had an opportunity to go to court.
Yet if the
So,
foster parent doesn't show up, it must just be an oversight and it's no big deal. You know what I mean? Like they always make excuses for the foster parents and they always crucify the biological parent.
was one of your parents Native American?
Yeah, my mother was.
Because I don't know if you know anything about the Truth and Justice Act here in Maine and around the foster care system.
I only know about ICWA.
I'll send you some information.
This
I
is
don't
a
know
thing
why I
I've been
didn't think of
struggling with.
that.
It was hidden from me. I mean, there were like mentions of my foster parents would make I shouldn't say jokes. They would make slurs about Native Americans. Anytime they would say, "You might be Native American," it was always followed by, "Native Americans are nothing but criminals," or, I mean, they just call them names.
Yeah.
They were obviously very prejudiced against Native American people. They're prejudiced against everybody. If I would step out of line, the first thing that they would do is threaten to shave my head. They'd get the buzz cutters out and hold it to my scalp. They and actually did it one time.
So I'm kind of assuming you don't have anything to do with your adoptive family now.
I have not spoken to them since the week I went in for detox. That was why I got off the phone with my foster dad and I said, "This is it. I'm drinking to die." Because he called me and said that he's on his deathbed, basically. He's had multiple strokes, he has cancer, and he asked me to come see him. And I was like, "I'll just beat you to the punch." Because he was such a narcissist and emotional abuser that he really got deep, deep, deep into my head and my heart. And in a way, was still being the puppet master, even when he wasn't around. He kicked me out when I was 17 years old with no reason why.
You know,
So since then, I have not spoken to him. I've picked up the phone to do it. I've written letters, but I wrote my book instead as my message to my father, my adopted father.
and you have some education. I want to talk about that a little bit so that, people don't think that you've just gone out there and you're just winging it. You do have a background in psychology, correct?
I do. Yep. I worked in a group home too. That was kind of what inspired me. I got my psych degree.
Yeah. So, that you do know where to look for some of the answers as far as that goes.
Yeah, and the psychology degree, I didn't have to open a single textbook that was easy peasy because I already dedicated my whole life to trying to figure out addiction. I knew I was an addict by the time I was 18. By the time I was 21, I was very convinced that I had some sort of mental disorder. I thought maybe bipolar, but I wasn't sure, and I just wanted to figure it out myself because I didn't want to have to tell anybody. So
And
I read so many books, so many books.
and that's so hard to understand too about if there's something wrong or if it was a trauma response.
Yeah, a lot of things that I thought maybe were like mental illness, I'm realizing now are definitely more trauma related. There's no doubt that I have bipolar disorder there, but the trauma with that bipolar disorder is so lethal if I don't take my medications. I gotta have them. I've learned that the hard way.
So, what do you do for fun?
For fun, man, I love music. Sometimes I just like sit with my headphones on, listen to music, and just close my eyes. But I love to be outside. I love to fish, kayak, go hiking. I love anything water related. Like I said, I live on my boat with my boyfriend in the summertime, so that's fun. All that. I just love to be outside and be in nature and my art.
And you've done tons of reading. Do you have a favorite book?
Favorite book. Just the first book that came to mind was this really great book that I read on trauma. It's called The Trauma Keeps the Score by
Mhm.
Bessel van der Kolk, and it changed my life. It changed my whole outlook on trauma. He's a very smart man. He has a lot of videos on YouTube too.
That's a really good recommendation for people that are going through trauma. So, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, it doesn't read like a textbook. Like it should be a textbook, but it doesn't read like one. It's very interesting, very informative.
Wow, we've been talking on all kinds of subjects. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you're dying to get out?
I guess there's just one little quick shout out I want to give, and that's to my nephew, Zach. I love you so much, and I can't wait to see you. I can't wait, and I miss you. So I just wanted to say that to him. Other than that, just everybody else listening, just don't give up and don't listen to the people who try and put you down because only you can determine your own self-worth. That's the only opinion that matters at the end of the day. And you have to take care of your physical body if you want to take care of your emotional state. So sometimes that's just the first place you got to start is just taking care of your physical self, however that
That's
might look.
that's great advice. And if people want to find out more about you, if they just Google Sabrina Illustrated is the best way to do it.
Yep, you'll find my website, and I mean, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm everywhere.
And I do
And
want
I
to
want to
let
talk.
people I do want to remind people too that Sabrina has some great jewelry out there, especially for anyone who's in recovery. Some really nice little reminders to wear around your wrist and around your neck to remind you that you're worth being here.
Thank you.
Again, thank you, Sabrina, for being with us today on the Prison Pod.
Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for listening.
You have been listening to the Prison Pod, a podcast not just for those in prison but for anyone who has been affected by incarceration. Ms. Valerie would love for you to write to her with your questions, comments, and show ideas. The address is PrisonPod, Post Office Box 294, Orono, Maine. 04473.
Music by Stir Crazy Music. www.stircrazymusic.com